Hello and welcome to CIBSE Building Performance Awards webinar. My name is Howell Davis and I'm the Technical Director of the Chartered Institution of Building Services Engineers, often known as CIBSE, and I chair the judging panel for the Building Performance Awards. In this webinar we're going to hear some expert advice from some of our judges, and also, we hope, an insight into the awards and the detail that helps to create winning entries. And our judges are going to share some of their top tips on how to prepare winning entries and talk through some of the thinking behind their tips. If you do have a question about what you're hearing, then please submit it through the question box under the slides, and our team will get back to you as soon as they can with a response. If you're having technical issues viewing the slides or listening to the audio, then please use the grey technical help button that you'll find in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. The CIBSE Building Performance Awards have been running for several years now, and they're open to entries from any organisation, whether it's within the UK or internationally, that's responsible for designing, commissioning, constructing, installing and operating buildings, and for manufacturers whose products enable efficient energy consumption or avoid energy consumption. We look for entries from organisations whose projects, products, innovations or initiatives are leading the way in building performance. Before I introduce our judges, I'd like to answer a couple of common questions that we get asked, and I'd like to offer three simple pieces of advice of my own. We're often asked whether you can enter more than one award. Simply, yes. There's no limit to the number of awards that an individual or an organisation can enter, but each entry does need to be specifically written for the category into which it's being entered. We do spot entries that repeat across several categories, and we tend to decide which one they're most suited for and consider it for that category only. We're often asked if there's a charge to enter the awards. The answer is no, there's no fee to enter the Building Performance Awards, so that's not an excuse not to be entering. Three pieces of simple advice. It does help if entries address all of the questions on the entry form. The judges look at all the sections of the form, and if one of them's blank, then that's an area where you can't get any marks or get any credit for your entry. So it just reduces the chance of your entry being successful. I mentioned earlier that you can enter as many categories as you want to. But do please check that your entry meets the specific date or other entry criteria for each category in which you're entering. Unfortunately, we do sometimes find entries that have slipped up and we're not able to consider them in fairness to all the other entries that are within the criteria. And finally, please don't leave it until the last minute. It's much better to get started early, especially if you have to find a few pieces of information to complete the entry. So I'd like to introduce our three other speakers this afternoon. They are Justin Beer, who is a Director of Beer Architects, Mark Hawker, who's a Senior Engineering Design Manager in the Property Department of Sainsbury's Supermarkets, and Susan Hone-Brooks, who is Chief Engineer at MTC Limited. Justin's one of the UK's foremost passive house practitioners with over 20 years of experience as an architect and a leader in adopting the passive house standard in the UK. His practice has been involved in some of the first passive house certified projects in the UK, including non-domestic retrofit projects and a level 6 carbon domestic passive house, which was completed as part of a research project in Wales a few years ago. And in that year, Beer Architects also completed London's first passive house, the Camden Passive House. Beer Architects have won a number of design and sustainability awards, and Justin has published a book, An Introduction to Passive House, which became an RIBA bestseller. Mark Hawker is a chartered engineer and chartered environmentalist, working with Sainsbury's, responsible for the engineering design of new stores, distribution centres and offices, as well as being responsible for introducing new technology into the estate, which led to his involvement in the graphite programme at Sainsbury's, saving 700,000 tonnes of CO2 equivalent each year by rolling out natural refrigerants, low energy technologies such as LED lighting, and the large-scale use of renewable energy systems. And the lighting part of that programme won the Lighting for Building Performance Award in 2015. So Mark's not just a judge, he's also been a successful entrant to the awards. Before that, he worked as Technical Director for Carlsberg UK and has held a number of other senior engineering roles. Susan Hone-Brooks is a Fellow of CIBSE and a Chartered Engineer, and she's also on the Board of Trustees of the institution. She joined MTC in January 2017 after a long career with Crown House Technologies, which culminated in a role at Laing O'Rourke, where she was the Sustainability Engineering Leader in the Engineering Excellence Group. Susan has a master's degree in sustainability and building energy design, and is also a qualified BREEAM assessor, an accredited BREEAM professional, a low-carbon consultant, and a qualified ESOS auditor. So Susan's very well experienced in looking at the energy and environmental and sustainability aspects of buildings. I'm going to move on now and ask Justin to share with us some of his thoughts on what helps to make winning entries in the Building Performance Awards. So Justin, over to you.
Hello. Having done some judging for CIBSE, I can tell you that the organisation is led and managed by people who are extremely knowledgeable and progressive and genuinely care about the need for environmental and social change. So they want to reward organisations and individuals that are genuinely trying to make change and trying to protect the greater good of people and the environment. So if you're helping people and the environment, make this clear in your entry. That's really my first tip. These awards are not just for engineers. They are genuinely about engineering rigour and excellence, wherever it comes from. So if you're an architect, surveyor, contractor, or manufacturer who shares CIBSE values, then I recommend you put your achievements forward. These awards are genuinely open to smaller, innovative organisations as well, and whether with respect to individual projects or working with Innovate funding to disrupt the status quo. So whatever your size of company, if you're doing pioneering or disruptive work, seriously enter. But I just want to also say that, of course, that the awards are not all about novelty. So if you're a genuinely progressive and established player that is genuinely producing engineering excellence with incremental improvements, then CIBSE and the judges will want to hear from you too. If you're doing good stuff for people and the environment, if you want to stand out from the crowd for genuine effort, persistence and ambition, then I really recommend you enter. This is the awards that you should be entering. And I can speak for all the judges in saying that we want to hear from organisations and individuals who can prove deep energy saving. We're also genuinely interested in other things like behaviour change and how difficult it is to achieve sustained behaviour change. So if you're working in this field, then we'd also like to hear from you. So when you make your entry, I think you should tell us what you've achieved and give us details of how you've achieved it. I think we've all been to awards and seen the results and thought, really? This won't happen with the CIBSE Awards. If you genuinely believe you've done something remarkable, then make sure you put a little passion into your application. That's different from sales talk. It will help to colour your genuine achievements and help to distinguish you from those who are just doing routine work. And I think that's all I have to say at the moment.
Thank you very much, Justin. That's great. And now I'd like to ask Mark to share his top tips with us, please.
My first top tip is keep your summary short. And if you've got any unique selling points in your entry, make sure they're in the summary and easy to find. My second point is make sure that you put the sporting detail into the appendices, and if they link to the summary, then index them. And my third point is be ruthless in the information that you put into the entry and keep it relevant. If you do those three things, you will help the judge enormously in trying to read the entry. I've seen a number of entries where you make us work really hard looking for the information because it's not structured, and you have to read the report 2 or 3 times to tease everything out. My fourth point is when you're making claims around improvements or savings, be specific both about where you're starting from, where you end up. Don't just give us the percentage improvement, and be clear of the units you're using. So an example, you can manage energy or measure energy in kilowatt hours, joules or BTU. Please be clear in the units that you're using. My last comment is avoid technobabble and gobbledygook. I get about 50 innovations sent to me in my current job to assess, and of them, probably about 10 to 20%, when you read them, if you understand physics or chemistry, they don't make sense. So recently, I had a device sent to me for saving water. It was a good idea, but they were claiming to reduce the size of water molecules by compressing them. If they were truly doing that, they deserve a Nobel Prize. So please make sure what you're writing makes sense. The judges will all understand physics. Some of them will understand chemistry. If it doesn't make sense, it will be very apparent.
Thank you very much, Mark. And now I'd like to ask Susan Hone-Brooks to share her thoughts with us on what makes a winning Building Performance Awards entry. Susan.
Hi, hello. Well, this will be my 4th year of judging the Building Performance Awards, and I can say it's a particularly intense time, particularly when all the judges get together to discuss the entrance. So my first tip is evidence, first and foremost. Please do not make spurious comments and put information that you can't actually back up with clear evidence. My second tip would be to avoid the corporate blurb. Just keep it to a minimum. Use the word count within the entrance to actually show and describe the actual project or solution that you're actually putting forward for the award. The next one would be show passion. Speak from the heart. Avoid the technobabble. Avoid the jargon. Keep the language quite simple. Remember that the judges have a lot of reading to do, and making the information enjoyable to read goes quite a long way. The next one would be actually include areas that have actually failed along the solution and communicate how you dealt with those issues. I mean, this demonstrates resilience of the solution or the projects that you're putting forward. It really is important to celebrate and discuss the failure areas to show that the project solution, how the project was shaped, and the resilience that you've got into the actual project. And my final one would be explain how this will work in the organisation. what would be the next development steps. Really show that the project is part of a bigger form of work and would lead a bigger legacy, and what would be the legacy piece and benefit to the industry would be really quite important. So those are my top tips, so good luck with the entrance.
Thank you, Susan. I'd like to turn now and answer a few of the questions that we're frequently asked about the Building Performance Awards. We're often asked about the dates and deadlines for buildings and projects to have been completed, and that's linked to the question that we're asked about eligibility to enter. All of the dates and entry criteria are on the Building Performance Awards website, so I'd encourage you to go and have a look and check the dates and eligibility criteria and make sure that your project falls within any dates. And for other categories such as the consultancy awards, that you're entering the right category with the right size of business. If you've looked at the website and it's still not clear, then the awards team are always happy to try and help further with that question. We're often asked as well about what is the judging process. Now, I'm probably not the best person to answer that, so I'm going to ask some of our regular judges if they'd like to say a word or two about how the judging process works. Susan's already hinted a little bit at this.
So in terms of the judging process, the way that it works, we all get sent a copy of the entries and have the opportunity then individually to read them, and then we mark and grade them individually and then send them back in to be collated centrally. After that, the judges then all meet for a day and we review each entry, assess their relative benefits, and at the end of that, then we come to a conclusion.
Thanks, Mark. Justin, did you want to make any comments on the judging process?
Well, I just would like to say how the entries are often very hotly debated and debated for and interrogate, and the numbers are really interrogated, and this is done to a very impressive standard that I haven't seen in any other awards that I've assisted in. So, the awards will really pick out those who have done the work in providing good, sound and convincing numbers.
Thank you, Justin. Susan, you commented on how busy a day it is when we're judging. Did you want to say any more about that?
Well, I mentioned that it really is an intense time, and we are all engineers in the room, and we can get very intense, and we really do get into the ribs and get into the real detail of each and every award, and it can become quite challenging. Each of us are given a number of areas to look at, or sectors to look at, and it can become very, very challenging when you put forward which one you consider is the one that should go forward to the award. It's not just simply as choosing one. It's a very challenging environment that the judges go through to decide on the one that ultimately achieves the award.
Thanks, Susan. I would just like to make the comment that the judging process, as everybody said, can get quite lively. It is a team effort, and we can only judge what's in the entries. So what you don't tell us, we can't judge. And that's where some of the supporting information really does help.
Al, could I maybe just one further thought on that, which is to be careful not to say something that you're not really sure about or you think is over-egging it, because an entry can be quite easily discredited really good work can be discredited by one statement, and that can just sort of cause something that might otherwise have gone forward to be eliminated.
Yeah, thanks. We do value accurate entries very highly.
And I think that picks up, if I can just jump in there, that picks up my point that please put in, the journey that you commenced on. Celebrate the failures, show us what things failed, how you reacted to those, what solutions was put into place. It really enriches the actual the judging. You cannot, when we see a submission that it just looks so that it was completely easy to do, it was nothing really had a problem or was problematic. Those are the ones that I think we really do discredit in a sense.
Yes, I think with a group of engineers in the room, nobody believes any project that hasn't had a problem. We all understand that no plan survives contact with the enemy, and there are always things that you have to change, and that's actually a strength and not a weakness if that's brought out in the entry. I'm going to move on to our next question, which is that we're often asked why we want good photographs to go with the entry. And it's actually not a technical reason. It does help the judges because we like to see pictures of projects. But there is another practical reason for it, which is that the awards, we do seek to publicise the award winners quite widely, and I'll say a little bit more about that in a few minutes. And we're also looking to get other people to publicise the awards. So we need good quality pictures to support the public relations and promotional work that we do with the awards. And that also helps to provide much better value to those entrants who are successful in being shortlisted or winning an award. Another question which we're often asked is how much data do we need to have? And without wanting to contradict some of the things that Mark and Susan have said, we don't want the irrelevant, we don't want quantity for the sake of it, but if you have got robust data about a project that helps to bear out the things you're saying in the entry, then please put it in. And ideally, tell us in the main entry form where we can find that in the appendices. There is nothing more frustrating as a judge than getting an entry form and lots of supporting material and nothing in the entry form that tells you what you'll find in the supporting material. It is asking a lot to expect the judges to go through and work out which bits of the supporting material support which bits of the awards, when it's quite straightforward to put into the entry, please see Appendix X, or please see photographs, or please see some other piece of information. The judges do have a lot to do. The easier you make it for a judge, the more chance that there is that they're going to find the things that make your project stand out. So the more you help the judges, the more likely they are to see the positive things in your project. We're often asked about what supporting documents we value. And again, I'm going to turn to Susan and Mark and Justin for their thoughts on that one as judges. Susan.
Oh, well, I think you've answered some of the questions that the appendicing clearly in the main document where the information is very good. But we need evidential support in the supporting documents, and it's got to be very relevant. And the one thing about the supporting documents, because we can get quite a lot, is please don't let us go digging for the data in the supporting documents. We would like it presented very, very clearly. So reams and reams of Excel sheets, not particularly showing us exactly where to point to the key data. is not helpful. So make it very, very clear when you are putting in the data in the supporting documents, that it's very clear, and it's an easy way of showing us clearly what that data is.
Thanks, Susan. Mark, what are your thoughts?
I have exactly the same thoughts. Relevant data presented in a way that's easy to understand. Other things I find useful in these entries, if people have put the EPCs in, the Bruckles, and sometimes the data they've actually put into things like IOC Apache, you can actually see the underlying structure to an entry, and that helps you assess what's there as well.
Thanks, Mark. That's a very engineering answer, and I wonder whether Justin, as an architect, comes at it looking for anything else.
Well, actually, I very much share the views of Mark and Susan. I would also say that the numbers that are presented, it would be very nice if we have some way of seeing demonstrated the veracity of those numbers. Sometimes we do see claims that don't really sound quite right. You don't want to disbelieve what someone's saying, but at the same time you think, well, can I just see a little bit of evidence in some way? That might be an academic partner's evidence. It might even be just photographs of meters, numbers on meters. But just something that convinces us that this is more than sales talk. The other thing is, I would actually steer clear, I think, of putting in, company sales brochures. It doesn't look as if you are applying very specifically to the things that we're looking for if you're putting in documentation that's really trying to sell your product to the general public or to other businesses. I think that's. The question of photographs. Photographs will never describe what it feels like to be in a building or how that building is performing in terms of energy consumption. And so I do sympathize with those who say, well, why photographs? But just remember that human beings are very visual. And if we don't have good photographs, then it's quite difficult to get people to open their ears and listen. People tend to start by looking. If they're interested, then they like to hear the story.
And it is said that a picture paints 1,000 words. Yeah. And at least having a visual that gives you an idea of what the entry is about can be a very helpful starting point. Thank you all for those thoughts. Another question that we're commonly asked is whether we can provide copies or past examples of winning entries. And again, this is one to go and look on the Building Performance Awards website, where we do have some examples, and they're available to download and look at. And I would encourage anybody who's thinking of entering for the first time to do that. Final question, and again, I'm going to turn to our panel of judges for these. There are a lot of awards programs around, and we're sometimes asked what makes these awards different. We were once told what makes these awards different when, a few years ago, Giles Brandreth was the host of the evening, and he stood up and said, I've realised that these awards are a bit different. You don't win one of these awards just by taking more advertising in the magazine. And it got a good laugh at the time, but he's absolutely right. And I think that Justin and Susan and Mark are going to say a few more words about what differentiates these awards for them. And I'm going to start with Justin.
Well, I think these awards are all about integrity. It really sums it up for me. You only have to look at some of the past winners and seen how time has gone on to show that those were genuinely, leaders that are still, referenced years later, to realise that these awards do find the right winners.
Thanks, Justin. Mark, any thoughts?
Yeah, from a couple of viewpoints. Having both been an entrant and actually after that being a judge, in terms of putting it together and what's assessed, it is very rigorous. So in terms of the awards that win, they have been very clearly reviewed by a bunch of people who are professionals, and it is based purely on the data, which is important and not that common. And I think the other thing is quite useful because some of the things that won on, certainly some of the products I've come to look at afterwards, and they do exactly what they say on the tin, which has been good as well.
Thank you. Susan, what are your thoughts on what makes the Building Performance Awards different?
Well, I can add to Mark and Justin's. I think really they celebrate and focus on actual performance within the built environment and not just like a cosmetic veneer of a construction project outcome. The judges really delve into the evidence and celebrate and reward submissions that show clear and demonstrable transformation into the management of energy and the reduction of carbon. Which is such an important area and focus of our industry. I think that fundamentally makes these awards very different.
Thanks, Susan. That's very helpful. One of the things that we're often asked is, what are the benefits of entering the Building Performance Awards? We've talked a little bit about the kind of detail that we want in the entries, and that doesn't always, that takes time and needs some effort. So what are the benefits of entering and being recognised in these awards? The first benefit is that it enables the business that's entered and often those that it's worked with on a project to be showcased as being best in class. It also means featuring in the CIBSE journal, and we also look to get PR and promotional material placed in other media outlets. And some of the winners have in the past achieved quite significant press coverage for winning the awards. Through the journal, we're making the winners known to the international membership of CIBSE. We have 21,000 members spread around the world. So winning a CIBSE award does reach an international community too. And of course, these days, anything that we do will feature on the website and in social media. And it's been quite notable in the past the social media activity around the awards evening. Some of our judges are ardent social media people, and news about the award winners tends to get out very quickly as it's happening on the night of the awards dinner. And finally, it gives you an external accolade which you can use to promote your success to potential clients, either using the shortlisted or the Building Performance Award winner logos. So there are quite a range of publicity benefits to be gained from entering the awards. I hope that's convinced you that it is worth looking at entering the Building Performance Awards. And that brings us on to the final part of this webinar, which is to think about how to enter. You do need to have a think about the category or the categories that you want to enter. The entry forms are on the website to download and complete. And this can be done online. And once again, I'd stress that one of the things that is different about these awards is that they don't attract an entry fee. When you've got everything together, then please upload the entry form and the supporting documents and those photographs that we need. And when that's all done, please select Finish and submit the entry. Before you do select Finish and submit, please check that you have actually uploaded everything and got all of that right before you hit the Finish button. It's all there on cibse.org/BPA. I hope that you will take advantage of the opportunity to enter this year. And if you do have questions, then please use the button on the webinar screen to do that. I'd like to finish by thanking our three judges for taking the time to join us this afternoon. So thank you to Susan Holmbrooks, to Mark Hawker, and to Justin Beer. And we look forward to looking at your entries a little later in the year when we come to do the judging. Thank you and goodbye.